Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 7-Minute Takeover, where we chat all things acquisitions. We're your hosts. I'm Liz Prey.
I'm Eamon Gamble. Today's episode, we're focused on the misconception that buying a business is much like buying real estate, in that you don't really need to have a strong relationship with the seller to ensure a successful transaction. Liz, you look skeptical already.
This isn't like buying a home where you typically don't even meet the seller of the property, and then that relationship doesn't exist. It doesn't need to exist. It's very transactional. In this line of transactions, that relationship with the seller has a life of its own beyond the transaction, beyond closing, where there's a training, a transition period. There could be subcontracting, or there could be an employment agreement. So that relationship really builds the foundation of the transaction before closing and then beyond. So it's really important around how that relationship begins to form and how it can really lay the groundwork for the rest of due diligence through to closing.
Absolutely. So trust is key, and this doesn't really come up in real estate transactions, but like you mentioned in business acquisitions, I'll say it again. Trust is key. There's so many little speed bumps and hurdles and custom requests that you're going to make of a seller and they're going to make of you, that there is a high chance that small misunderstandings can be misinterpreted as deeper structural problems if that trust isn't present between the parties.
Yeah. There's a lot of information moving back and forth later on in the process through email and non-verbal, non-body language situations. So it's really important that you can kind of have that relationship where you can pick up the phone or you can meet in person and work through some of, if it's a miscommunication or if it's just a hurdle in the deal to get through. One thing to keep in mind is often sellers are working with a business broker or an M&A advisor or an intermediary, as they like to be called. And so respecting that relationship is important in the beginning. And we get a lot of questions from buyers around, well, how do I build a relationship with the seller and when and that sort of thing. And our advice is to first understand that the business owner has signed a contractual relationship and they have obligations to that broker who's representing them and vice versa. So it's first important to understand how the broker runs their process and respect it and follow their instructions in the beginning. You'll get time to build the relationship when you get past certain stages, but whenever there is an opportunity for that first owner meeting and every opportunity afterwards, take advantage of every opportunity that you have to meet and interact with the seller, because every interaction you have the opportunity to have will build on that relationship. And then usually after getting under the letter of intent and you're in exclusivity, usually communication opens up more at that stage.
Yeah. So, in these broker transactions, it's not always going to be the same how a broker may introduce buyers to sellers. We have seen buyers that got introduced and were able to form that relationship with the seller during the offer stage. But like you mentioned, that's not always common. So Liz, you said, the communication channels may open up more post-offer. That doesn't happen automatically. What are some of the strategies that you've seen buyers employ to really kind of start forming that relationship with a seller?
One thing that we see that works really well, and we recommend it, is to get in a regular cadence with the seller during due diligence. So we've seen people set up, lunch once a week where they meet with the seller as they're going through due diligence. That's a high touch relationship that's being built in that situation, but exchange of phone numbers, also understanding from the broker what is acceptable to them, and have open conversations with the broker and the seller about, what can the lines of communication at this stage be, and be considerate that the business owner is still running their business. They're still usually involved in the day-to-day operations, and you don't want to disrupt those operations. And so, being available at their schedule, but really making sure that there is some cadence, consistency is is a tip as well. Some consistent cadence of communication. There you go.
That was a consistent cadence of words, Liz. So, it obviously comes down to you as a buyer and how you feel comfortable kind of injecting yourself into that situation and where you feel resistance and pushback maybe from the seller. I think we can say that it's probably better to slightly err on the side of being a little bit too present in the life of the seller and be told, hey, step back a little bit, rather than making yourself non-visible during that process and not trying to form the relationship at all.
Yeah.
I can think of a handful of situations where a slight misunderstanding did derail a deal where there was no personal relationship established. There was just a miscommunication, and the seller misunderstood what it was that the buyer needed, which knocked the deal off course. And similarly, we've seen some parties work through some massive roadblocks and got a transaction done based on the fact that they had that relationship. They knew that each party was working in good faith to help achieve each other's goals.
Absolutely. Well, I think we can consider this myth to be busted. It's not like real estate, not transactional at this stage when you're building that relationship with the seller. So get in, build rapport, build trust, and it'll help you carry the deal through to closing. Any parting words?
No, myth busted. Thanks for your time today, Liz. Good chatting with you, and
Good chat.
We'll see you all later.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, please be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and check out our website at villagewealth.com.